Hello everybody, and thanks for coming. It's a great opportunity and a great pleasure to host Muse-X here, and it's a great pleasure for me to also host this panel, which is made out of colleagues, it's made out of friends, people I've known for a long time, and great people I've just met. So thank you all for coming here. I'll do just a quick introduction about myself, then I'm going to dwell a bit in the topic. My name is Altin. I'm first of all a musician, and I also work in the industry. I've done different roles, well, the role of the promoter, the role of the marketeer, also managing bands in music and in creative arts in general. Now, for today, the panel that we're talking about is related to music management, something that we kind of know, but something that we kind of half practice, I believe, as a Balkan musician myself. The topic is not only going to go around the problems that we have with management or with artists. It's going to dwell in the perspective from the UK, the perspective from Eastern Europe, the European perspective, and also a comparison to here. My goal for this is to kind of show people in the audience, to inspire a few of you that things are not as different. There are also ways to achieve the level that the gentlemen here in the audience have achieved with their audiences in the UK and all over Europe. So I hope you enjoy it. Now, I would like for you to grab the mic, if you will, just do a short introduction about yourself. And then I'm going to dwell in a few specific questions, OK? Also, we're going to start with Milica there, if you don't mind, because also the mic is close to you. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Milica. I come from Serbia, Novi Sad, and I work for the Exit Festival.
Can you hold the mic a bit closer?
Yeah. A little bit here? Yeah. And I work for the Exit Festival from Novi Sad, again, Serbia. And I'm also managing artist for our Exit ecosystem label and management agency. The label is called Exit Soundscape. So yeah, lots of different things. Also booker manager for the Sea Star in Croatia, No Sleep in Belgrade. So lots of various things, basically.
Thank you. My name is Victor Konradsson. I'm Swedish-French. And I manage two acts, only two, you might say. That's because I have a day job at Believe since 15 years now, in charge of knowledge development and the skills of the Believe staff.
Hi, my name is Ade, also known as Uncle Ade. I am a former music manager of Grammy Award-winning producer team, the Baker Boys, who produced What Now from the Rihanna album Unapologetic. I'm a music industry educator at several institutions in the UK, and also the senior vice president of artist and business development at a new tech startup called GrooveUP, which is a blockchain-powered artist and label services platform with a 360 artist-to-fan revenue model.
I am Tomorr Kokona. I come from London. I'm a British-Albanian artist, mainly a choreographer. I manage various projects and festivals. It's very difficult to really specify exactly what I do, but practically my mission is to support artists on anything they do, multi-art form productions and events. I'm here also as a representative of the British-Albanian Culture and Arts Organization, an organization made up by artists for artists to secure a solid bridge between Great Britain and all of the other parts of the world. So ask me on anything to do in how to set up, where to go about courses, seminars, workshops, funding, and everything else. And I will try my best, and if not, I'll find you the right person who could help you.
My name is Piotr Pucylo. I came here from Poland, from the festival GLOBALTICA. It's our World Cultures Festival, based in Gdynia, north of Poland at the Baltic Sea. And I'm co-founder and artistic director of this festival. We are presenting at the festival artists from all over the world, from very traditional artists to very modern ones, where the tradition is just an inspiration for something totally new. And I'm also an educator and a graphic designer.
Oh, we can have this. This is a bit louder. Now, For the first question, I want to actually direct it to Tomorr. Tomorr is someone with whom I've worked a lot, and he has a very interesting book called Successful Artist Mean Business, which relates to everything that we're talking here. And the first question I wanted to ask is regarding brand, because I believe that one of the roles of the managers is to build a brand for the artist, and I think they have a big role in that. Now, I want to ask Tomorr about, because he has a very specific description about branding, which is beyond the logo, beyond the image, is the words, the promises that you keep and that you don't keep. So I would want you to just expand very slightly on that, and then I want to pass the mic for a specific going for you, Piotr, because I know you're a very experienced graphic designer, and you've done a lot of branding for festivals and for artists, okay?
Thank you, Altin. Okay. There is a saying that branding is what other people are going to talk and say about you when you are not in the room. So if you rest and think about it, whatever we do, however we behave, whatever we say, it's our brand. The concept of branding, Altin and I, 9 months working together, endless debates and discussions, and we were both right. But the point about branding, I'm not going to go into technicalities because it's not point. It's not. I guess everybody, whoever is listening to this, would be interested in understanding how can you put it into practice to serve you. So, in a way, are all of the elements, and I'm sure that other people are going to talk here, and I heard your presentation last time, you were just spot on with what we need to do about branding. First thing I ask a graphic designer when they come to work for us, I just say, yes, you're going to be doing some wonderful, beautiful pictures. Of course, I need to find your credentials as well. But I always keep in mind the business model. Because there is no point of really spending money, creating beautiful things, which are important, but in itself does not transmit the message. So lesson number 1 for branding is giving your message, who you are. How does it describe? So then when I ask a graphic designer, say, okay, we're going to work together. We're going to spend as much time as possible so that you understand what does my potential customer or client needs. You can really, again, wander around with words, but if I do not make people straight away find the interest on what I do, then there is no point. And the other thing that I'm going to leave you with is marketing is a selection process. Please remember this, because I've learned it in a hard way. What does it mean? I make sure that people who are not my target audience run away as fast and as quickly as possible, which means that the other part will be interested, who want my services, then I can start serving. Instead of me shoving things, pushing things out, I want to build the marketing to come back in. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Tomorr. Now, Piotr, I've seen a few of your work. I know about your work with festivals and especially with world music. Something that I've noticed, connecting it a bit to the Balkans, is that we insist a lot on our heritage, and we use it a lot as a vantage point and as a branding point in marketing, which I think is exceptional. We also had Christine from Muse-X talk a bit about it. Now, what I'm noticing, being an independent artist from the Balkans myself, but also being a musician also in the UK, and having also studied there, also under Professor Ade in the University of West London, is that here, when it comes to more modern music, we lack that visual impact of artists. They have the feel, we have the soul, we have the heart, but it's very hard to build a brand. Besides specific few, like for example, Dubiosa Collective, which you probably know, which have an exceptional brand. What are your challenges, per se, or the difference that you notice when you are working for branding, for example, in Poland, for a Western artist, or when you're working with artists from the Balkan? Do you find that there is a gap or something that we could really, really improve under that umbrella?
Oh, it's quite difficult to say. I mean, there is no one way, I could say, to find the proper design and the proper idea how it's supposed to look like. Personally, when I'm starting to work on a project, I'm trying to understand the art of the artist I am working for example. I mean, I'm trying to listen to his music, trying to understand his background, if it's music connected with the traditional culture. I'm trying to understand his tradition, culture. I'm trying to make a research about the traditional artworks from that part of the country, traditional designs, and I'm trying to find a way how to combine these traditional elements with modern elements, which will be also attractive to the present audience. I'm also trying to talk to the artists. What are his expectations? What, he wants from me, this kind of things. And there is, as I said, there is no one proper way. I mean, I can do something which I will like very much, but it doesn't mean that you will be satisfied as an artist. And it doesn't mean also that it will work the way we would like to see it. Because it's unexpected sometimes, yeah? So it's not easy. I mean, it's a long-term process to make a design, but I am also trying to convince the artist, the client, that if we will talk more, the result will be better. You know what I mean?
Now, just to connect on a tangent to the topic of the Balkans, because I wanted to get through the branding, through design, I wanted to get to this point and pass the mic to Professor Ade. Ade has worked a lot with African music, the African Music Conference, and I want to kind of correlate the two regions with two questions. I want to relate it to the concept of Balkan brand, or as a manager having an artist from the Balkans. Now, is the Balkan brand something that is powerful in a sense, branding the artist from that region with a specific? And regarding that, do you find, after watching a bit the region and everything, that there are the same struggles in Africa that will be for artists and for here? And do you find that also the African brand for artists is something powerful that can be exported in other countries? Then I will make the comparison with the region here.
That's 3 questions, by the way.
That is a lot.
Okay, so first of all, let me go to the second question, which was about the...
Africa. The exporting the artist, like the power of the brand.
Okay, yeah. So interestingly enough, I do a lot of work in the UK, or did a lot of work in the UK, and now focus much more on Africa. And I know that the most powerful thing about the African music scene, particularly Afrobeats, is the cultural migration of all of the additional elements that go into it. So it's not just about the music. It's about the food, it's about the fashion, it's about the language, i.e. Pidgin English, as we were talking earlier on, which is the common communication tool across all the different areas of Nigeria, which has over 100 different languages. So Pidgin English is the tool, but actually that all of those things have become popularized across all the different regions, UK, Europe, Holland, Saudi Arabia, Canada, America, everywhere that Nigerians have migrated to, though the culture has gone with it. So they haven't just been enamored by the music, they've been enamored by all the things that go with it, even including fashion. And you can see that through YouTube, for example, even comedy. So you can see through YouTube, Nigerians have been able to use social media, particularly YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, to communicate or promote their cultural uniqueness in a number of different ways extremely successfully. And I argue that it's about the migration of the people through academic migration a lot of the time to all those different regions who still consume their local culture in those environments. So in the UK right now, everybody's talking about Nigerian food. You'll see on social media Europeans tasting moi moi and swallow and all those kind of things. So you can see this whole cultural adaptation that the music happens to be the soundtrack for. So it's about more than that. So it's being completely branded in the way that you were talking about before. You're taking on all of those elements. So the brand identity of Nigeria is very accidentally intentional in that regard. Yeah, so hopefully that answers the first question. The second one was?
Regarding, it related pretty much to that, like regarding exporting artists from the Balkans. Like the similarities that would be exporting artists from the Balkans and exporting artists from Africa. But I believe you answered all the questions with that, with the cultural part.
Yeah, cool.
Amazing, thank you. Now I wanted to direct a question to Victor. We had a short chat last night with Victor, and I know that he really loves the region. He visits often Eastern Europe. Now, Believe Music, if you don't know the company, is everywhere in the world. They work with artists, with labels, with music companies, everywhere. And I just wanted to ask Victor very broadly, like, what are your impressions of the music scene and the music industry in the Balkans from your perspective from Believe, since you have the knowledge overall of the region, Europe and UK?
Thanks for asking. Actually, it touches on your previous question, the export potential of the Balkans. And if we take a global view, the diaspora of the people from Eastern Europe is spread everywhere. Croatians in Australia, etc. So that already creates a market. You have also to keep in mind that a stream from a person who is a premium subscriber in Sweden is worth much more than a view by somebody in Albania on YouTube, which is not even monetized. So it pays twice, 5 times, 10 times to work on those not foreign, well, people located outside. But when I speak to my colleagues who are based here in Albania, or the regional head of Believe, because we are in every country of Eastern Europe, but it's headquartered from Budapest, they tell me that the Albanian Kosovo music is probably the most export-friendly, notably because the way it sounds when it comes to pop melodies. And we've seen featurings between trap artists from Albania with French rappers. We, at Believe, encourage those kinds of collaborations. So it's probably easier to export that than to export folk music. But folk music, turbo folk, is really exportable too. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Victor. Now to go to Milica. Milica is the book original of Exit Festival, which is beyond the festival. It's a movement, it's a brand, so it's everything in arts. It's Exit Festival, I believe, and I have a huge appreciation for you over the many years. We talked also briefly with Milica last night about how she got involved with Exit Festival. Now, what I wanted to ask, since also the topic connects to the role of the managers in the Balkans. What I believe, from my view, is that here in the Balkans, we have music managers. However, since the economy is stuck in a gig economy, so it's gig after gig after gig, and even touring here is very hard, and very few artists are exported, we tend to compete with each other, is the idea. So what I've noticed that managers, mainly here, tend to be only booking agents. Now, in your experience with Exit Festival, you book local artists, you book international artists, then you book the A-lister, which are the top artists in the world. Now, for you as a booker, I want you to answer 2 things. First of all, when these artists from abroad, when you book them, how different is the approach of a manager that comes from abroad and of a manager that contacts you or you contact them from the Balkan region or from Serbia? And second of all, when you want to book a new artist, because I know Exit Festival does a lot also for new artists, what are the first things that you see for the alternative stage, besides the person having, of course, a following and everything? So I leave it to you.
Thank you for the question. So, yeah, the approach is definitely very much different from foreigner artists that are international stars. So when you sent me the pitch for the panel, there was a question, do we have only managers or booking agents? And we definitely lack managers. Bookers are also debatable. If we take into consideration like what needs to be done in order for booking to be very organized, very professional, which I think is very important. In the Balkans, unfortunately, everything goes through the phone, through the DMs, in Instagram, which I can't stand. And I cannot emphasize how many times I've said, please go back to the email. Please go back to the email. And I literally had a situation from perspective of ecosystem agency, guy telling me, oh, well, I just want to ask you here in Instagram because it's easier than on email. And I was like, it's 2026. The message will come in a second, the same as it would be on Instagram. Please go back to the email. So the approach is very different. Like there are literally, it's a serious job. There are many phases that need to be done. Everything, believe it or not, even though it's a music industry, it's artsy, but there's a protocol that needs to be done. You have various steps, and if you don't follow them, again, you can bear serious consequences from the side of a legal side, contract side, because I also do that. I do work on contracts. So yeah, the approach is very much different. That's that. Yeah.
Perfect. Of course.
Yes.
Okay, it's quicker. Yeah, I would like to say something from my experience also, because I have very similar experiences as your ones. But I think we shouldn't say it's a general thing, that the approach from the west of Europe or from America is better than from Balkans. The big names are better than unknown artists. Absolutely not. I had very bad experiences with big artists, with the terms of communication, professionalism, and other stuff. And at the same time, I have beautiful, very good connections and approach to all we wanted to get from the artists, which was totally unknown. So, it's just we could share it professional, unprofessional. There is no geographical, dividing or something like this. That's my impression and my experience.
Yeah, for me, personally, I'm not talking about people. I have horrible experiences with big artists that follow the protocol. I'm just more talking about operational stuff, not people as itself. I had beautiful connections with and worked with people who are wonderful, who just don't, that's what we lack in the Balkans, like sharing experiences, sharing most of all mistakes that I think are more motivational than sharing like, oh, I'm amazing. I don't find anything motivating in that. I always feel more motivated for myself as well because I'm basically new in the industry, only 3 years. So I find it very motivating to hear, senior colleagues talking about their mistakes and how they come out of that. So I'm not saying, I agree with you, I'm not saying that people from this region are any worse than the Westerns. Actually, I'm very pro-advocating this region and Serbian and Balkan artists. I'm just saying that we definitely do lack education on how things are done, and we are not sharing our experiences enough. That's the only thing I'm saying.
We have the soul, we have the intention, but we don't have the procedure, so we leave it very much up to the individual.
Exactly, but in order to do that, I think the steps are basic. We just need the will to do that. I think that people just need to put their ego down and admit to themselves that, oh, I don't know this thing. And then the final step is education and connecting and networking and talking about mistakes. And yeah, just learning and sharing experience.
Thank you, Milica. Now we're going to go a bit to Tomorr, who wants to add on that. Afterwards, since we touched on education, we're going to go to Professor Ade, who's one of the top educators, I believe, when it comes to music business.
Perfect.
And I want you to share, like, when building managers to build a music professional, how important is an educator? Because I know that out of your education, a lot of great people have come out.
I absolutely agree with what you're saying. There's a word which is, we need to really mention it, is enough is enough. We come from a system where everything was provided by the government, everything was provided by the big players. Now, on the 21st century, if you do not jump out there to really raise the bar up for yourself, the manager either is going to send you to get out, or you're going to double the work, and so eventually everybody loses. So what's the point? The big question, the elephant in the room for me today is, do we need managers or not? This is the question we need to discuss. And if we need managers, we need to really understand what is the role of the manager. What are some of the things that we benefit as artists, and why should the manager not really get remunerated, for example? Why should a manager get 5, 10, 20, 25, 30% of every euro you make? Why? And this is a stigma that springs from the fact that, oh yeah, you're the manager, I'm going to send you a Facebook message. No. You've got to really understand the importance, because when you have a manager, the manager fights for you. It's there, holds your corner, supports you, it says to you, no, don't go to Germany this year, go to Switzerland. That's where the big players are. I'm going to introduce you to that. It might take you 6 months. It might take you a year. But it's that jam we were discussing before we come in here. So it starts with, so there's a layer. And I believe, perhaps people could contradict me, that there is this foggy mentality, as Altin said before. Are the managers managing, or they're just booking, tour bookers, and so on? So there's this foggy understanding, and I'm saying this is worldwide because I travel a lot, and this is a problem that is all over the world. Artists feel, oh my goodness, I've just put my, tears and blood into this work, and suddenly you come there, you're going to take me 20%, and then they shoot themselves in the foot. Okay, so food for thoughts for you. Dr. Ade.
I wanted to go to education, because I know there's a lot of independent artists here in the room. However, you touched on the point of monetization, which is a very interesting subject, which I know very, very well. The Professor Ade is it's an approach that is super, super interesting. However, I wanted to direct the question to both Ade and to Victor, because Victor manages also as well, besides I believe he manages 2 bands. And I wanted to direct this question. When you approach an artist in different phases of their development, for example, a new artist, an artist that is there but is not yet an A-lister, and an A-lister, what do you think is the remuneration? What is the deal that they should do with a manager you think that is a fair deal? Also, when answering this question, feel free to also discuss your perspective of the effort that you put, the skills that you put, and everything that you put for the audience to actually understand in deep the role of the manager, why they deserve what they deserve. So I first want to go to you, Victor, and then go to Professor Ade, because I would find it super interesting.
I'll try to be short, Professor. It's an interesting question, the remuneration of a manager. And I've taken myself, personally, the opposite approach to that of a percentage. I go for fixed fees, actually. And fixed fees that can be layered based on thresholds. So for an emerging artist, the skills, the projects that are needed are very different on a long-term basis. So the main skill of an aspiring artist and aspiring manager is project management, because at first you need to get your ducks in order, as they say in English. Registrations, submitting the music on time, chasing all the creative people who might have to produce a video, etc. So it's essentially project management, and I encourage managers to use project management tools which give transparency to the artist as well. Like, I've chased this guy 3 times, believe me, you don't have to just say it. That person can see it in Trello, Asana, or whatever Slack system you may want to put in place. I'll try to stay short. The real role of the manager is not only to deal with this day-to-day and relieve the artist from this pressure, it's also to have a long-term vision built with the manager. So in that case, you could trigger the fact that, for example, if you're still working together in a year and a half, I don't know, €1,000 bonus, because so far it was great. We renew, we put everything in writing, in a contract. I'm committing to do this, and the artist also should commit to do certain things.
Yes, that's a
the
great
manager cannot want it more than the artist. Do you want to add on this?
If you have more, please carry on.
Okay. My favorite line, actually. The manager never want it more than the artist. Okay, so let me touch across the whole scope of that. To start with, education is absolutely essential, but on different levels. So we have to understand that first. But as an educator, I've also become very aware that you can educate someone till you're blue in the face. It doesn't mean to say that they're going to adopt. So you have to start by cultivating mindsets. And cultivating a mindset will facilitate somebody being able to embrace the ideologies that you talked about in terms of the disciplines that are essential for progression. And then let's talk about the different types of artists in the world that we live in now, which is a very independent world, right? We live in a world where it's actually become a badge of honor to be an independent artist who owns their own masters, right? But actually knowing what that means is a whole new thing. So I argue that there are 3 types of artists, therefore 3 types of managers. You have the independent artist, you have the extremely dependent artist, and you have the interdependent artist. So the independent artist is someone who has a complete vision of where they want to go, what their worth is, what their message is, and what they mean to the world. So that requires, and that kind of artist only wants to make music. And that requires somebody to do the thing that a record company normally does, which is only want to make money. So that means that you have to have an artist who is a full-boarded manager who does all of the business stuff. And I will argue in terms of remuneration in that kind of field, there's this whole narrative on social media right now about a top-level manager of that type having a 50-50 deal in terms of a commission. And I've seen artists like shocked, like jaw dropped to the ground. But interestingly enough, I believe that it's actually an argument that we should entertain. Why should we entertain it? Because an artist who is independent is no longer concerned about a deal whereby they are getting from a record label 12 to 18, maybe 20%. They now own 100%, save the money that they give to a distributor, an artist, and label. So now they're going to be walking away with around about 70 to 80% in their pocket. But all this work that has to be done that the record company used to do is now the domain of the manager. So I argue, first of all, that the manager at that point isn't really a manager. The artist is a CEO, and the manager is the COO. Therefore, you have a different kind of scope of work. In that particular instance, some people will say, but 50% on everything forever? Not necessarily. There is this sliding scale whereby when you hit a certain level of revenue, then the scale of your commission comes down, and it maybe level out around the 30, 35%. that's fairer, because at that point, a manager who has started working with and succeeded with a top-level artist is now going to be approached by all the artists who are looking for that same success metric. Therefore, they're going to commission off of all those artists they're going to succeed with, and that one artist is only going to take that one revenue stream. So that sliding scale is really important. So when you get to that point, you would need that kind of manager. Then the interdependent artist, who doesn't necessarily have the whole vision, but has some of the vision, but doesn't want a manager, for example. That's where my domain is. I'm a consultant. I don't like managing. I don't want to babysit artists in that regard. So I will do what I call get them deal ready, whereby we put all of the framework, all of the vision together, and then we license that to a label or an artist and label services. You're interdependent upon the label. Then the artist who is signed to a label is extremely dependent, and they have a different type of manager. They'll have a personal manager who actually won't do very much work because the record company infrastructure does most of that. They do all of the administrative stuff you talked about. So you can look at the scope of management across all those different areas, but you definitely need in each one of those to be sufficiently educated about what that role requires, and all of the expertise and all of the networks and all of the relationships that you would need to have to facilitate success in each one of those areas.
Thank you, Prof. That was great, like very deeply explained. Of course.
Do you want to add something about the sunset clause? Is that a concept that rings a bell? I think it's important that managers keep in mind also that an artist can leave you from one day to the other. And it can feel unfair if you've built that person to go to that level, and then it's like heartbroken. And so what we call a sunset clause in the industry is the fact that you will keep on earning some things even if the contract and the relationship ends. I think it was important to make managers wary of this.
Yes, yes, please.
So this actually brings me into another point that Altin and both of you mentioned, education. It needs to be across board. What does a contract mean? What is a contract? You know, quite often we as artists, as creatives, spend hours and days talking about the concept and ideas. And I drove this guy crazy. Put it in writing. And Altin would just come and talk to me. Put it in writing. No, it's not enough. You need to really, and again, it's not, we need volume of things, but we need clarity. Because when it comes to the moment of divorce or abandonment, when artists or the manager, for that term, you need to go back into it. But even before that, quite often we need, especially in the Balkans, is just you talk to people, shake hands, and then whatever you've been saying has been translated by the other person, completely different. So what does that bring? Expectations. If you really want a relationship between a manager and an artist or any other people, you need to really be clear and check back. Is this clear? The moment you check, that's a contract. In UK, in fact, a word of mouth is a contract. Okay, by law.
And
you
here
are,
too, I
you know,
believe. Here
no,
too,
it
because
is-
we have
it's
the
true.
same law with the UK in
Exactly.
many areas. But people aren't very aware of that we have very similar laws and many things are valid. And as long as you research and you dig deep into the stuff, you have actually signed a lot of contracts with people, and there's a lot of things that bound you with people. It's another conversation how then we translate that into real life. Sorry to interrupt
Yeah,
you.
no, absolutely, I agree. The thing is that, for example, you might have an artist friend as a manager. And you, oh, come on. We Albanians do it a lot, and I've seen all the Balkans do it. Oh, come on, you, my friend. You are asking me for a contract. And in fact, is a self-respect for both parties. And the way that I found I go around this, I just say, look, let's put things in writing, a few bullet points, so you know exactly 6 months later, you know exactly what to ask me and not to ask me for. It's really important. And I would know what to ask you for and not to ask you for, instead of just guessing, oh, but yeah, you should have known about this. Is it in writing? Of course, we can change it if there's something acute. So education is really fundamental on both parties. And artists are, I mean, I don't know how many workshops are there. Are there any workshops in the Balkans? Are there any, you know, is the government or any other organization or private companies, you know, catering about organizing and setting up workshops on how to work with the manager? What are the expectations? You know, how, and again, we need more arts managers, like proper managers who understand, because as you said, Ade, there are many different colors on being a manager. You could be a manager where you take care of only the freelancers, or you only take care as a manager, for example, Royal Opera House, they have the company manager who looks after every single artist, but they get paid, they get a salary. So these are, thank you for opening this conversation for all of us. There's a lot of food for thought, and I hope we don't come here in this place in Tirana or somewhere in Montenegro or in anywhere else and talk in exactly the same conversation. Let's use this as a trampoline for all of us. If we really want to help artists, we do have help from UK, from America, and all of the other European countries. Use us, and let's build and, you know, develop this industry even better.
And by the way, on that end, Ade and Tomorr, both of them delivered workshops here in Albania. Ade was online. We organized just a few weeks ago. And the people that came, not many people came there, I'm going to be very honest about it, because it was hard for me to explain to people what was going to be taught on that workshop. But the moment it started, the people that were there, I won't go romanticizing and say that something changed, but something kind of sparked because the questions started to follow up. So even if everything sounds like it's not from here, believe me, it's very much for here and very much for everywhere. Sorry, Piotr, you wanted to also add up to the point.
Yeah, I just wanted to say something more also about all these things. I mean, I agree with everything which was said here, but I also think that not every artist will have an opportunity and the luxury to work with a really professional manager. It's not so easy, and probably it's much easier in mainstream music, but when we are talking about the independent music, or let's say folk music, it will be tough thing, I think. So you, especially if you are emerging artist, if you are already artist on a certain level, let's say even well known, will be better to find a professional manager who will guide you, who will take care of your business, of your brand, identity, and so on and so on. But if you are just on the starting point, you should also think that maybe you shouldn't focus only on music if you have time and the opportunity also. Try to think with the, you know, DIY approach, you know. There are access to information, what's important, how to do all these things, and so on and so on. And you should, from my point of view, you should remember that probably no one will take care of your business as good as you will take care yourself, you know, because it will be for you. But you have to be focused, you have to take your time, you have to invest your money probably, invest your time for education, for the contacts, other things, you know. That's just thinking about the way how you could treat it. And just after this panel session, I will be running also a workshop. I will share with you some tips and tricks from my perspective as a programmer, what's important for us. I mean, what kind of materials we expect from you. I mean, we have to have some tools to promote you, to help you to play at the festival, and so on and so on. So feel invited, and I hope it will be useful and helpful for you.
Thank you so much, Piotr. And I'm sure for everyone, I invite you also to Piotr's workshop, because I'm sure for every artist here, it would be invaluable. And I really actually wanted to follow up on that, because you touched the point of independent artists. And I want to connect that actually to Milica. Now, everybody here knows Exit Festival, and we have a lot of independent artists here in the room. And I want to keep the question very basic. Supposingly, there's artists here in the room who want to play at Exit Festival, who want to play in one of the alternative stages of Exit Festival. They do not have a manager, they have a band here, they play gigs, they release an album. When you get contacted by them, supposedly they contact you now, what are the things that they should have to contact you? What are the things you notice, the way they approach you? What do they need to have as a package for them to continue for you to book them? Then I want to pass that to Victor, because Victor also manages band from the perspective of the manager. But I would like your answer first.
So I will come back to the beginning of the panel on the branding and on the system that needs to be followed up. So the branding isn't just visuals. It's how you speak, how you present yourself. Are you prepared? It says a lot about you. So I get a lot of emails basically like translated, hey you, I want to play Exit. That's it. Super. I also want to be, I always wanted to be a flight attendant, but I am not. So you need to be, even though you are an artist, you need to also know how to operate and be a businesswoman or businessman in that sense. And you need to approach it like it's 9-to-5 job. So somebody goes to bank, does their job, your job is an artist, and you should take it as seriously. So you need to know basic things like how to construct the email, how you should approach to people. That's on that. And now on the branding thing, I definitely notice their press pack. So if I see a document in Word, I will rarely look at it, because it just shows me, maybe it's an amazing artist, but it's not mature enough. So I'm looking always for artists who are thinking about everything, who are thinking about their representation. So PDF is a good start, I would say. If you say that you attach something, it will be also good that you have it attached. So yeah, press pack, good photos. Basically, if you give me all the things that you are working on, it shows me that you are very professional, that you are taking your job seriously. So press pack, riders, music, links to the socials, and yeah, how you speak in the email, what kind of approach you have, super important. So that, again, that's that representation and branding, because branding isn't just the visuals on the stage. It's also who you are on the stage and when you get out of the stage, who you are as a person, what your values are, what do you post on social media. Yeah, it's all super important. Basically branding today is your ID as an artist, and you need to take care of everything.
Perfect. Now to slightly alter just the question a bit for Victor, but keeping it in that range. When it comes to artists, I'm just going to keep it at the indie level of artists. Would the manager do that for the artist, is the idea? Would you as a manager on the first steps of the band write the emails for them, prepare the communication for them, approach the people for deals, even become the booking manager at a certain point? So besides, because thank you, Milica, you're very clear on what the artist needs to approach. But do you think that the manager, especially at the beginning, should kind of be a jack of all trades and do everything for the artist? What is your opinion on that?
It's not easy to give a simple answer on that. In an ideal world, the booking agent is a dedicated role. And you can find a booker, integrate the roster of a touring agency that will represent you in worldwide. But it's very difficult to finally get selected to be part of a touring agency. So yes, I think the manager and the artist need to work together on the communications. It's a bit obvious, I suppose, that if somebody writes on behalf of an artist, it's going to look more professional. It's going to that person can do the bad cop thing when the artist does the good cop thing. I focus on the artistic, etc. However, the relationships that are built in the music scene are extremely important, and I've found that the artists I work with, using DMs to other artists and hanging out backstage, but also sharing production tips, etc., get a lot of new ideas about where to go playing or which project to undertake. And we see more and more festivals created by artists, run by labels, etc. Yeah. So it's not always a one-way street. And I would just add to the formal email thing that it's important not to send a template email to all the festivals in the world. It needs to be personal, and it's actually fairly easy to see which artists have played at that festival prior, and there might be some connections with the artist that you represent, like you open for that artist in another country. So that's already a conversation opener, probably the first sentence in your email.
Thank you, Victor. I think we covered a lot on that point. Now I want to ask a final question, because also Piotr is also running the workshop, so we're all going to do another question, which I would like you to give your opinion on it. And then after this, we have another panel about indie artists, which I would really appreciate you being here, because this will also be super interesting. Now, I'm going to share a thought and a question. I think, as an artist, as somebody who kind of self-managed myself, self-management, of course, at the indie level band, my question, to relate to the thought, is when do you think is the right time for an artist to have a manager? For myself, in my opinion, one of the ways that I find that I educated myself to become a sort of bracket manager, or starting to become a professional in the music scene, is without having the manager, I and my band started doing things ourselves. Now, I believe the point where we got to needing a manager is where we actually had a lot of demand, we had built an audience, and we had more things to do that we could actually do ourselves. So it became very specific. So my opinion on it is that today you need a manager the moment that you cannot handle the demand, or you cannot handle many things yourself, or you want to up to the next level. What is your take on it? Because I also wanted to relate it to the people in the audience. After this, we're going to have just a space for a few questions for the audience, if that's okay. Whoever wants to answer first.
So my opinion, basically, as soon as you decide for that to be your living career.
Perfect.
So because us from behind the scenes, we are like, let's say, like a cake, and an artist is just a slice of that cake in sense of the perception what is going on in the industry. So if you want to succeed, I think you need a good manager, but I know it will sound cheesy, but really a manager who cares about you and who really wants you to succeed. So I have that kind of relationship with my artists, and we talk about that a lot, and we are like, even though I'm younger than the boys that I have in our sense, we also have Lana, and they're all three of them are amazing, but I'm like a parent to them in sense that you have to give them all the facts and guide them to make the right decision. And if you don't have that in the beginning, and if you make wrong decisions in the beginning, you can be doomed in the end. Because especially nowadays in the digital time, if you do something that you weren't supposed to do, or if you collaborate with someone that you are not supposed to, yeah, again, it can affect you very badly long term. So you need a proper manager who cares about you, who wants to build you as a brand, not just as an artist. So you need someone to advise you with whom to collaborate, if you want somebody to sponsor you, that are also, I see many artists kind of are running away from sponsorships. I disagree with that. You just need to find brands who correspond to your values. So, but for that you really need a management, again, because of that perception that we have as operative guys from behind the scenes. So, yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Milica. Just the same question, but if you can keep it very short so we can also have a few minutes for the audience before the yellow panel. When is the right time for a manager?
well, maybe you don't want to hear 5 times the same answer, so I'm going to cheat a little, and I will say, answer, find a manager as soon as you find one, a good one. I mean, we've said that there's a shortage of managers here. If you find somebody who's like-minded and can take you, maybe not wear all the hats, but at least do something interesting that can help you in your career, it's a simple pact, a simple agreement to work together for a month, 3 months, 6 months on one project. And then you will see how it goes. And to just finish on that, I would add that it's not about finding an experienced manager, finally encountering that experienced manager that everyone talks about. Actually, it might be more interesting to work with somebody who's 20-year-old, working in training to become something in this industry. That person will put a lot of energy. You will be like-minded. They will care because they want to succeed, and it can be a very junior person. So it's not about finding somebody good, it's about finding somebody who's dedicated. Yeah.
Thank you, Victor.
There has to be kind of bond between the artist and the manager, definitely.
Yeah, the importance of trust, I think, is what you might say. Trust and reliability. Perfect. What's your take on that, Professor Ade? I keep saying professor, I can just calm down.
Okay, so for me, the question is, how long is a piece of string? Because it really depends on where you cut it. So I want to differentiate between management and representation in order to answer this question well. Because management, for me, comes at the point that you are aspiring to be either deal ready or investment ready. And that's the point where it becomes serious business. But when you're in your development stage, you don't necessarily have all of the tools or all of the time to do administrative things like arrange for studio, find the right producer. So at that point, you often are looking for representation as opposed to management. But also, that even if you do find representation at that point, who then dovetails into becoming your manager, it's likely that they won't have the kind of relationships, networks, and experience to manage you at the point where you are investment or deal ready. But that's okay, because at that point, a good manager, somebody who really cares about your career, would be happy to hand over the reins or share the reins or give somebody else the steering wheel and sit in the co-pilot seat and learn from that particular experienced manager. So you need to think about where you are in your progression in terms of your career and identify the right representation or management at the right time.
Perfect, and thank you for making the differentiation between management and representation, because a lot of artists here fear that when they say manager, it's like somebody will manage me, like in brackets, we will be under the manager and everything, but there's different parts for that. Any last thing to add, Tomorr?
I hope the audience got the message. The absolute need for this kind of service. And this kind of service has got lots of different colors. Representation, tour booking, project manager, and so on. So this is lesson number 1. Lesson number 2, think like common sense. Do you need a mentor? I've written a book about this, Successful Artists Mean Business. So if you want a copy, I've only got a few. Come and grab them at the British Albanian Arts. There are 7 stages for an artist, or for anybody who loves to do, express themselves. So throughout these stages, then you will find out, you will feel when you really need what. So at the basic stage, like when you're an amateur, you just do it for a hobby, you do it at your home, you do it at a gig, and so on. What do you need on that? So the next lesson is be aware of mentoring and also get to know your industry. Because quite a lot of artists just jump from having an idea and then they do it without having a strategy. So I'm not going to go any further. So a few lessons for all of us. Managers are really important.
Piotr, any last thoughts?
I think everything has
Cool.
been told already, you know.
Perfect. So a round of applause and then a few questions if you have any. Any questions from the audience? Okay, I'm gonna bring out the mic. Just one question and we need to keep it very short, okay?
Io ho chiesto ogni più. Okay, yes. So thank you all for your insights. I'm gonna keep it short. It's not really a question, more like I think insight from my own. I think we've seen over the years many examples of great international artists getting their careers screwed over in their lives somehow because of management. But what I think is gonna smooth that relationship is for artists themselves to have business education. Because next time that you sit down with a manager, you might be losing a great opportunity only because you cannot comprehend their language. So in case one is speaking Japanese and the other is speaking Turkish, there's no deal happening. So before even starting any management at all, you need to understand what are we talking here in terms of number. Because even what was mentioned, the 50-50 deal or other deals that might seem abusive, they might be your best opportunity. But because you fear numbers and you don't speak that language, you might get that result. So
I think we all mainly agree on that point, like on education. Perfect. Okay. Could you pass the mic to Fation over there and Mariella?
So thank you very much. My name is Fation. I'm a professional musician, piano player, keyboarder, and artistic manager. I have one question for all of you guys regarding the industry in Albania. In 35 years, like from since the transition from communism to democracy, we have seen plenty of artists in Albania, mostly rock bands or rockers, who have tried to put in this concept of building a brand. And lastly, they have ended up singing something which we call talava in weddings. Do you think that this is the right approach to become successful in a local market just like Albania? And the second question, in addition to this, most of the managers in Albania not only act as bookers, but also tell the artists that you should collaborate with this because this other artist collaborated with this one and became successful. So, like, do all the managers have a guideline, a strict guideline, or the management of each artist should be different?
Perfect. If I can just hop on it. Regarding the first question, because I believe there's a bit of a context to be explained regarding the music and everything.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, there's a specific panel, is Old Music Killing New Music, which is specifically regarding that. For this, it's not like we don't want to answer now, we just have time constraints.
Yeah.
Regarding the second question of calibration, whom would you pick from the people in the audience you want to hear an answer from? You can only pick one, sorry, just for the timing issue.
Professor Ada.
Sorry, what was the question? The second question, please.
So we see in Albania most of managers who tell new artists or emerging artists that you should collaborate with this producer or this agency because this next artist did this and he became successful. But is this the right approach, or each artist should have a unique management of its career?
Okay, so that's a really interesting question. From a manager's point of view, the job of the manager is to bring out the very best in the artist, and they can't do that unless they understand the unique attributes of that artist. So you can't use the same techniques for everyone. But let me say this, though. We're all playing from the same playbook. The rules are the same for everybody. If we talk about marketing, we talk about the 7 Ps. We talk about the adoption process. We talk about product life cycle, et cetera, et cetera. So we all talk from the same playbook. It's just about the interpretation, or what we call in education, the synthesis of the information that you have in front of you. But it also does mean, though, that the first job that the manager must do is find a way to extract out all of the diamonds out of the artist in order to help build the world that everybody else will go into with awe and wonder. So I think it requires that more than anything else.
I hope that answers. We had a final hand, if you can make a very quick question, and then we just have a 10-minute break, and then we carry on right away for the indie artist panel. Okay?
Thank you. Question again for Professor Ada. You said it's very important to be educated, and I agree. When do we start? Whose responsibility is it? What age should we start? Because we're talking about mindset here. So is it the role of parents, teachers, governments, communities? Would love to have your thoughts on this. When is the best time, and how do we cultivate, do we educate people on that mindset? Thank you.
It's a tough question.
You brought it up. You started it.
Very much. So education, obviously, as you know, we are educated from kindergarten, so it's already there. At that point, though, from that point, we're not necessarily, we shouldn't be necessarily programming each individual, but we should be identifying what that each individual's special thing is, and then cultivating that. Because it may be that by the time that person from kindergarten gets to 16, they want to do something completely different. So we shouldn't be enforcing those things too early. However, it is really important to understand that both the creative and the manager need to embark in education at different levels. But I'll say this. We're living in a world where you can find out anything you want from your phone. Just pick up your phone now. Any question that you have, your phone, you'll get an answer within seconds. You'll even see 100 videos, minimum 100 videos covering that subject matter. So actually, education now is not the same as it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. Now it's about mentoring more than it is education, because the information is already there. So actually we have to pivot in the way in which we develop artists, creatives, managers into the next generation of trailblazers. So I think hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you.
Okay, guys. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you for the talk. We kept it a bit longer. Hopefully it was interesting for everybody. And we'll keep going the panel just after a short break. So thank you. Thank you, everyone.